The Arsenal. The armory at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado sat in afternoon shadow, its concrete walls thick enough to muffle the sound of the Pacific surf just 200 yards away. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed over rows of weapon racks, M4s, HK-416s, SR-25s, all the tools that made Navy SEALs the most lethal fighting force on the planet. At the far bench, alone in a pool of directed lamplight, Isaac knelt before a disassembled Barrett M82A1. The 50-caliber anti-materiel rifle lay in pieces across a cleaning mat. Barrel, bolt assembly, recoil spring, trigger group. His hands moved with surgical precision, a cotton patch spiraling through the bore, checking for copper fouling that wasn't there, because he'd already cleaned this rifle 3 times in the past week. Commander Wyatt Brennan pushed through the armory door, tablet tucked under one arm, coffee going cold in his other hand. 22 years in the teams, 3 deployments to Afghanistan, 2 to Iraq, and a chest full of medals he never wore outside formal occasions. He'd come down to review equipment logs before the next rotation shipped out, standard administrative work that couldn't be delegated. Then he saw the Barrett, and the man cleaning it. Wyatt stopped. The rifle alone was notable. The Barrett wasn't standard SEAL issue, too heavy for most operations, too specialized. But the way this sailor handled it spoke of something deeper. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Every piece disassembled with the kind of muscle memory that came from thousands of repetitions, not hundreds. "That's a big rifle for close quarters," Wyatt said, his voice carrying across the empty armory. Isaac didn't startle. His hands continued their work, running a bore snake through the chamber one more time. "Yes, sir. Not much use in a ship takedown or urban assault." "Then why are you maintaining it like it's about to deploy?" "Because it might be, sir. Weapons don't care about probability. They care about readiness." Wyatt studied him. Early 30s, maybe. Lean build, the kind of functional muscle that came from carrying heavy loads over distance rather than gym work. His hands were weathered, knuckles scarred in the specific pattern that came from shooting in extreme cold. And his eyes, pale grey, almost colourless, had the 1,000-yard flatness that Wyatt recognized from mirrors. "You're not a SEAL," Wyatt said. It wasn't a question. "No, sir, Marine Scout Sniper, recently transferred to support operations." "Name?" "Isaac Mercer, sir." Wyatt's finger paused over his tablet. The name triggered something, a memo he'd glanced at and filed away last week. He scrolled through his messages, found it buried under operational orders and logistics requests. Personnel transfer, GYSGT Isaac Mercer, USMC Scout Sniper, attached to Naval Special Warfare for specialized long-range reconnaissance and counter-sniper operations. But it was the attached file that made Wyatt's eyebrows rise. A combat report. Afghanistan, 18 months ago. Operation in Helmand Province. Taliban commanders meeting in a compound that conventional strikes couldn't reach without collateral damage. The solution had been unconventional. 1 shooter, 1 shot, a distance that made Wyatt reread the number 3 times to make sure it wasn't a typo. 3,682 meters. 2.28 miles, a kill shot through wind, heat shimmer, and mountain thermals that would have made lesser shooters give up before they started. "Holy hell," Wyatt muttered. Isaac glanced up, caught the expression on the commander's face, and understood immediately. "You found the file. This is real? Not some clerical error?" "It's real, sir." Wyatt pulled up a chair, the administrative work forgotten. "Walk me through it." The shot, Isaac's hands slowed on the rifle, then stopped. He stared at the barrel for a long moment before speaking. "Helmand Province, March of last year. We'd been tracking a high-value target for 3 weeks, Taliban commander named Qadir, who'd orchestrated the ambush that killed 6 Marines the month before. Smart guy, kept moving, never stayed anywhere long enough for air assets to position." His voice was flat, factual, Not bragging, just recounting. We finally got coordinates on a meeting, him and two other commanders in a compound on the far side of a valley. Problem was, the valley was crawling with civilians. Women, kids, shepherds with goats. No way to get a drone strike approved without risking innocence. Wyatt nodded. The rules of engagement were clear, and they should be. But they made certain jobs infinitely harder. My spotter, Adrian, and I had been in an observation post on the ridge line for 4 days. No movement, just watching, waiting. When the intel came through, we did the math. The compound was 3,782 meters from our position, 2.28 miles. That's beyond the effective range of the Barrett, Wyatt said. Way beyond, sir. The rifle's effective range is around 1,800 meters. After that, you're fighting gravity, wind, air density, the Coriolis effect from the Earth's rotation, basically everything physics can throw at you. Isaac resumed cleaning, his hands finding their rhythm again. Adrian told me it was impossible, not difficult, impossible. But you took the shot anyway. I did the calculations first. Wind speed at our position, estimated wind speed at intervals along the trajectory. Temperature gradient, it was 112 degrees in the valley, maybe 85 where we were. Humidity, barometric pressure. The angle of decline was severe, about 15 degrees down, which affects bullet drop. And at that distance, I had to account for Coriolis. The bullet would drift right because the Earth rotates beneath it during flight time. Wyatt leaned forward. This was the kind of shooting that existed more in theory than practice, the mathematics that sniper instructors taught, knowing most students would never face a shot even half that distance. The bullet would be in flight for almost 9 seconds. 9 seconds where any variable I miscalculated would mean a miss or worse, hitting a civilian. Adrian kept telling me to wait for extraction, that we'd find another opportunity. But I knew we wouldn't. Kadir was smart. He wouldn't make this mistake twice. So what made you pull the trigger? Isaac met his eyes. Because I'd done it before. The background Wyatt's coffee sat forgotten as Isaac told the story. Not the official version, but the real one. I grew up in Wyoming, town called Pinedale, about 2 hours from Jackson Hole, population maybe 2,000 on a good day. My old man was a hunting guide, took rich clients out for elk and mule deer. I started shooting when I was 6. .22 rifle, tin cans at 50 yards. By the time I was 12, I was making shots at 500-600 yards on prairie dogs. Prairie dogs, Wyatt asked. Small targets, unpredictable movement, long distance, best training you can get. The ranchers hated them because they'd destroy grazing land, so they'd pay bounties, 50 cents a tail. I made enough for my first truck by the time I was 16, all from shooting prairie dogs at distances most people thought were impossible. Isaac reassembled the Barrett as he talked, his hands working from memory while his mind walked through the past. After high school, I enlisted. Marine Corps, infantry first, then Scout Sniper School at Quantico. I had the fundamentals, but they taught me the science, ballistics, meteorology, fieldcraft, how to read terrain, predict enemy movement, become invisible in plain sight. 3 deployments? 4. Iraq twice, Afghanistan twice. Started as a standard sniper, 300 to 800 meter engagements, overwatch for patrols, counter-sniper work. But somewhere around my 3rd deployment, I realized I had a knack for the extreme long-range shots. The ones where most snipers would call in air support or wait for the target to move closer. He held up the bolt assembly to the light, inspecting the firing pin before sliding it home. There's this zone beyond 2,000 meters where normal shooting breaks down. You can't just aim and fire. You have to become a mathematician, a physicist, a meteorologist all at once. Most snipers hate it. Too many variables, too much uncertainty. But I loved it. The complexity, the challenge. And the shot in Helmand? Isaac's jaw tightened. That wasn't my first shot over 3,000 meters. It was my 7th. The armory fell silent except for the soft click of metal on metal as Isaac finished reassembling the rifle. 7 shots, 7 kills, all between 3,100 and 3,682 meters. The brass started calling me distance as a call sign. Not because I was distant emotionally, but because I owned that range that nobody else could touch. Wyatt shook his head slowly. Why isn't this common knowledge? A record like that, the media would eat it up. Because I requested they bury it, sir. Isaac's voice went hard. The world's longest confirmed sniper kill gets thrown around like it's some kind of trophy. Headlines, interviews, book deals. But every one of those shots was a human being. Enemy combatants, yes, people who would have killed Americans without hesitation, but still human. He met Wyatt's eyes again, and the commander saw something in that pale gray gaze. Not regret, but weight. The accumulation of decisions that couldn't be undone. I didn't take those shots for glory. I took them because they needed to be taken, because not taking them meant dead Marines. So I asked for the records to be classified, buried in reports that only a handful of people would ever read. The last thing I wanted was to become famous for ending lives at distances nobody else could match. The proposal, Commander Wyatt sat back, processing. He'd commanded some of the best snipers in the world, SEALs who could hit targets in conditions that would make civilian shooters weep. But what Isaac described went beyond skill into something approaching art. Why transfer here? Wyatt asked. Marine Scout snipers have their own command structure, their own operations. Because the Marine Corps wanted to make me an instructor. Isaac's voice carried an edge of frustration. After Helmand, after that shot got documented, they pulled me off deployment rotations, said I was too valuable as a teacher, that I needed to pass on my knowledge to the next generation. That sounds like an honor. It's a cage, sir. Isaac stood, shouldering the Barrett with practiced ease. The rifle weighed 30 pounds, but he moved like it was an extension of his body. I'm 33 years old. I've got maybe 5-6 more years of peak performance before age starts degrading my vision, my steadiness, my ability to stay prone for hours in extreme conditions. I don't want to spend those years in a classroom. He looked at Wyatt with an intensity that made the commander reassess his initial impression. This wasn't just a shooter. This was someone who'd found their purpose and wasn't ready to let it go. I heard about naval special warfare's expansion into long-range reconnaissance, ultra-long-distance overwatch for SEAL operations in denied areas, support operations where conventional close air support isn't available. I put in for transfer because I want to keep working, keep doing what I'm good at. Wyatt nodded slowly. The program Isaac mentioned was real, still in development, designed for exactly the scenarios he'd described. Conflicts were evolving, moving into gray zones where American forces needed precision without leaving obvious footprints. The problem, Wyatt said carefully, is that SEALs have a culture. We're a team-first organization. Individual excellence matters, but only in service to the team. A Marine sniper with a classified kill record, showing up wanting to support operations, that's going to raise questions, concerns about ego, about whether you can work within our command structure. I understand that, sir. Do you? Wyatt stood, matching Isaac's height. Because from where I'm standing, you look like someone who spent years operating alone with a spotter, making godlike decisions about who lives and dies from distances where nobody could second-guess you. That's not how we work. Then let me prove otherwise. How? Isaac set the Barrett down carefully. Give me a test. Whatever evaluation you use to assess sniper capabilities, throw it at me. I'll operate exactly as directed, follow every protocol, demonstrate that I can subordinate my skills to team objectives. If I fail, I'll request transfer back to the Marines with no complaint. Wyatt studied him for a long moment. There was confidence there, yes, but not arrogance. Isaac knew what he could do, but he also knew what he wanted. To keep working, keep contributing before time and policy stripped him of the thing that gave his life meaning. "All right," Wyatt said finally. "There's an operation spinning up. We've got a SEAL team inserting into a hostile area for reconnaissance. They'll need overwatch, extreme long-range support in case things go sideways. It's training, but it's realistic. Live ammunition, real consequences if someone screws up." "When?" "Week from tomorrow. Naval Special Warfare Training Range up at Chocolate Mountain. 4 days, high desert conditions, heat and wind, and every other variable you love so much." Wyatt picked up his tablet. "You'll be assigned a SEAL spotter. Work within our communication protocols. Engage only targets we designate. Show me you can be part of a team instead of a lone wolf, and we'll talk about permanent assignment." Isaac extended his hand. "Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you." Wyatt shook it, feeling the calluses, the strength. "See that you don't. Because if that shot in Helmand was real, if you can really own that distance nobody else can touch, we need that capability. But we need it in someone we can trust to use it right." Chocolate Mountain. The high desert northeast of San Diego could kill you a dozen ways without trying. Daytime temperatures pushing 115 degrees, nighttime drops to 50. Rattlesnakes, scorpions, dehydration, heat stroke. It was perfect. Isaac lay prone on a ridgeline 3,400 meters from the training compound, his body covered in a ghillie suit that blended with the scrub and rock. Beside him, his SEAL spotter, a tough-as-nails operator named Colton, scanned through a spotting scope, calling wind, 9 miles per hour variable. Thermals are making it dance. Below them, a 6-man SEAL team moved through the compound, practicing room clearing and hostage recovery. The training was realistic enough to hurt. Sim rounds that hit with real force, timed objectives, unexpected variables injected by the cadre to test adaptability. And somewhere in those buildings, designated enemy targets would appear. Isaac's job was to provide overwatch, to eliminate threats beyond the team's engagement range if necessary. "Command, this is Overwatch," Isaac transmitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "In position, all sectors covered. Copy, Overwatch. Maintain radio discipline. You're cleared hot only on designated targets with authorization from ground team lead." Understood. 4 hours passed. The sun climbed, turned the ridgeline into a griddle. Isaac barely moved, sipping water through a hydration tube, breathing shallow, becoming part of the landscape. Colton shifted occasionally, stretching cramped muscles, but never took his eye from the scope for more than a few seconds. Then the scenario went hot. "Contact! Contact from the north building, 2nd floor." The SEAL team leader's voice cracked over the radio. "We've got simulated casualties, need fire support." "Overwatch. You've got eyes on north building?" Isaac's scope was already there, tracking through the window. A training cadre member with an orange armband, designated enemy, crouched with a rifle, moving to engage the pinned SEAL team. "Affirmative. Target acquired." "Range?" Colton worked the calculations. 3,387 meters. Wind gusting to 12 miles per hour, temperature gradient between us, and target approximately 20 degrees. You'll need to hold 2.3 mils right, elevation 14.6, Isaac finished. His finger rested on the trigger, breath held, waiting for authorization. "Take the shot!" the Barrett roared. The recoil drove into Isaac's shoulder, familiar and solid. 8.2 seconds later, the window 3/4 of a mile away shattered, the orange armband snapping back as the training round hit center mass, non-lethal but conclusive. "Target down," Colton confirmed. "Perfect shot." But there was no time to celebrate. 2 more designated enemies appeared from different buildings, angles that made engagement from ground level impossible. Isaac worked methodically, calling out ranges, confirming authorization, firing with the steady rhythm of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Each shot hit, each target dropped. The SEAL team completed their objective, extracted with simulated hostages, and cleared the danger zone. All units, exercise complete. Endex, Endex, Endex. Isaac safed the Barrett, finally allowing himself to breathe normally. Colton sat up, pulling off his boonie hat and wiping sweat from his face. "Damn," he said simply. "I've worked with a lot of snipers. You're something else entirely. Just doing the job." "No. That distance, those conditions, most shooters would have requested closer position or declined the engagement. You made it look routine." They broke down their hide, packed equipment, and made the long hike back to the forward operating base. Commander Wyatt was waiting, along with the SEAL team they'd supported. The team leader, a lieutenant named Adrian with a salt-crusted uniform and exhausted eyes, approached Isaac directly. "You're the sniper who covered us?" "Yes, sir. Those shots saved us. In real-world conditions, we'd have taken casualties without that overwatch." He extended his hand. "Whatever the commander decides about your assignment, I want you on my team. That's the kind of capability that keeps people alive." Over the next 3 days, Isaac repeated the performance. Different scenarios, different ranges, different environmental conditions. Every shot hit, every authorization was followed, every protocol was executed flawlessly. On the final evening, Commander Wyatt found Isaac cleaning the Barrett, again, in the temporary armory they'd set up. "You passed," Wyatt said without preamble. "I'm approving your permanent transfer to Naval Special Warfare. You'll be assigned to SEAL Team 7, provide long-range reconnaissance and precision fire support for operations in denied areas." Isaac looked up, and Wyatt saw something in those pale eyes he hadn't seen before. Relief. Not pride, not satisfaction. Just relief that the thing he was good at, the purpose he'd found, wouldn't be taken away yet. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me, thank yourself. You proved you can subordinate individual excellence to team success. That's what makes a SEAL, regardless of what uniform you wore before." Wyatt paused. "That shot in Helmand, 3,682 meters. You think you could do it again if required?" Isaac considered. "Depends on conditions, but yes, sir. I think I could." "Good. Because the world's getting more complicated, and conventional solutions don't always work anymore. Sometimes you need someone who can reach out and touch someone from a distance nobody expects." Wyatt turned to leave, then stopped. "One more thing, that call sign, distance. It's going in your file, classified still but official. Someday, when people ask why Naval Special Warfare has the longest confirmed kill shot in military history, I want them to know it belonged to someone who did it not for glory, but because it needed doing." Isaac nodded slowly. "I can live with that." After Wyatt left, Isaac finished cleaning the Barrett, hands moving through the familiar ritual. Outside, the desert night had turned cold, stars sharp overhead in the clear air. Somewhere out there, beyond the ranges where normal shooters stopped trying, was a distance only he could bridge. Not through magic, not through luck, through math, wind reading, patience, and 10,000 hours of practice that made the impossible merely difficult. And now he'd have a chance to keep working that distance, keep perfecting that craft for a few more years before time or policy or physics finally said enough. For a man who'd found his purpose at the extreme edge of human capability, that was all he'd ever wanted.